Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having me. Today, I'm here to talk about a problem that's very real. No? Technology is something that is very pervasive. It's something that we all use every day. And a lot of the things that is changing are really happening sort of in a virtual space, in the cloud, as we say, communication, email, Facebook, all these things. But there are things in technology that you're actually able to change real objects, the things you actually physically interact with on a day-to-day basis. And one of them is near and dear to my heart, and I think it's the same for you guys, because you go through this every day. You have to suffer through traffic. And this pain and suffering that you go through is actually something that's been measured. So Waze, which is a crowdsourcing application that collects data on traffic all over the world, recently published a study saying that Metro Manila has the worst traffic on planet Earth. So something we've always felt and knew deep inside is actually true and measured. So this piece of data actually is pretty interesting. We have the longest commute from house to the office. It takes about 45 minutes on average. Personally, for me, and this might have happened to you as well, a 10-kilometer road trip takes me about an hour, which puts your speed to at about 10 kilometers per hour, which is incredibly slow, sometimes even faster to just ride a bike. But when you put a number to this in terms of peso, in terms of currency, what we find out is that it's costing Metro Manila about 2.4 billion pesos per day. If you round that up, that's about close to 900 billion pesos per year, which is about 6% of our GDP. Now let me bring that number closer to home. There's about 11 million people here living in Metro Manila, give or take. And if you do the math, each and every one of us is losing about 200 pesos each day due to the loss in productivity caused by traffic. That's 200 pesos that could go for lunch, for dinner, for something that you could spend more valuable time on. Instead, here we are having to suffer this traffic. Now, how is this going to progress? Do we think traffic is going to get better? Well, unfortunately, not quite. In the last 5 years, vehicle sales here in the Philippines have been growing. They've been growing actually in double-digit growth rates ever since 2010. And this number, we expect, will continue on. Why do I say this? Because we've found that through studies in other developed nations, or in more developed nations like the US or Japan, there is a period in time when a country hits about $4,000 in GDP per capita, when an inflection point is hit, and a country starts experiencing massive growth in car ownership. Basically, people have more money. A middle-income group becomes bigger, and they're now able to buy and own their own vehicles. This trend does not stop until the country hits about $30,000 in GDP per capita. Where is the Philippines today? We're just at 6,600, in 2014. Okay? So we've got a long way to go. So this trend, I expect, is going to continue. There are going to be more cars that are going to come on the road, which means, unfortunately, more traffic congestion. So how do we solve something like this? And this is where I believe technology can really, truly play a part. So with Uber, we use technology to connect people, to connect riders with drivers. And as with any piece of technology, we're able to utilize information and leverage on that information to create better things. And in this case, we're able to connect people who are looking for a ride with a driver and a car who are more than happy to provide service. So for the people who don't know how it works, just really quickly, the way something like Uber works is you open the app on your iPhone or Android device, and you see yourself on a map, and you see the cars around you. With one tap of a button, you can then request for a car who will come pick you up. You'll see the name of the driver, the face of the driver, and even the license plate of the car, so you know exactly what you're getting into. You go, you ride the car, get to your destination, and you're done. At the end of the trip, you rate the driver and the trip so that you're able to give feedback almost instantaneously. This is possible because of technology. And some of the things that we don't normally think about or we take for granted today are the other features that we're able to use or leverage on because of technology in order to make transportation better. And how do I mean by better? First, it makes things more convenient. I said it takes just one tap to ride, and this is true. No longer do you have to go down, pick up your keys, get into the car, drive for an hour to your office or to class, and basically waste your time just staring at two red lights in front of you because you're kind of packed behind a big traffic jam. With something like ride sharing, you can just tap a button and got a car and do something else, whether it be working in the car, calling your loved ones, calling your friends, reconnecting with other people. Secondly, there's safety. Because it's using technology, we are able to track all trips. Everything is recorded, from your GPS coordinates to the time you left your house to the time you get to your destination. This adds a layer of security that has never been there in transportation. For the first time in history, we are able to track every trip. And this really makes things a lot safer. Third point is reliability. As more and more people adopt technology, what we find out, it becomes more useful. And this is true for other technological products, right? You think about Facebook, you think about Instagram. As more people use it, and this is something people call network effects. As more people use it, it becomes more useful. And in many ways, we're seeing the same thing with ride-sharing apps like Uber, where as more cars and more people use it, you get to see a car, not just 10 minutes away, but 7 minutes away, and then 5 minutes away, and then 2 minutes away. It truly becomes an on-demand experience, which makes it super reliable. You don't need to plan for it, it's just there. The fourth point is accountability. I talked about ratings, and this is incredibly important. Again, because of technology, we are able to collect and process information. And on every trip on Uber, you are asked to rate how the driver was, how the trip was. And this rating system, this continuous and real-time rating system, incentivizes the driver to be in his or her best behavior, to give you the best possible driving experience, to give you the most gorgeous of services. So this really creates an experience for the rider that is hard to compare with anything else out there. And if you didn't know, the rider is actually also, for those people who use Uber, even riders are rated. And this means we're now able to make sure that even the rider is in the best behavior, not to make a mess in the car, not to do anything, a little crazy, and just be in his best behavior. The last point is transparency. How many of you guys here have taken transportation where the driver, frustratingly, at the end of the trip, is going to ask you for an extra 50 pesos po, ma'am, o pakidagdag na lang po ng 100 dyan, okay? Kasi po, layo ang traffic eh. It's a little uncomfortable and definitely very frustrating. Well, with technology, we're able to bring up the pricing up front. It's incredibly transparent, so you know what you're getting into. You see a fair estimate, and everything is tracked. You know the route you took, so hindi ka madadaya. Okay? And that's the kind of little things that really make something like Uber and ride-sharing apps in general much more reliable than owning a car. So eventually, where does this all lead to? It leads to change. It leads to a way of how you think about transportation. Previously, as I was growing up, and I think most of the older people in this crowd would feel, as you grow up, you wanted to, when you were asked, what is the most convenient way to get around Metro Manila? And we think, it's about having my first car, being able to own a car so that I can be inside an air-conditioned vehicle and comfortably get around the metro. Well, now we have a different option. Because of technology, owning a car is not a necessity. You can now use applications like Uber to actually get service from your own, as we call it, private driver on demand. Okay? And there are a couple of things that are starting to happen. People are choosing, it's already happening here in Metro Manila, people are choosing, instead of driving, they are now riding. That means they reclaim the productivity time lost. They're able to work in the car, call their friends, even take a nap. And this is incredibly powerful because suddenly you take your time back and then somebody else, the driver in this case, is earning a living. So it's a win-win situation. And that's only the first step. As more and more people use ride-sharing, technology allows us to scale this. When we scale this, it means it becomes even more reliable, it becomes more affordable, and suddenly owning a car is no longer a need. It just becomes another option. So just to give you an example of what we do at Uber is when we see more cars going online, what happens is we see wait time. The time it takes for a car to pick you up start going down. Because what used to take, like I said kanina, 7 minutes or 10 minutes for a car to come to your house, it just now takes 4 minutes. So it's super fast, super efficient. This means time is used much better. We utilize time in a much more efficient way. So one way to look at this is the number of trips a driver can make in an hour. And over time, as more and more people use this, as adoption goes up, that time, or the idle time, or the downtime of the driver suddenly goes down. And every minute that he spends driving is actually a minute being paid for. And that is incredibly powerful. Efficiency is key, and technology allows for that. Ultimately, what this means is that fares can start going down. Okay? This means that as we utilize underutilized assets more efficiently, and every minute counts, we are able to get that price down where now it becomes a daily option. Something you can use when you're just going to the grocery store, when you're going to the park, when you're going to some, little errand. Just driving your own car doesn't have to be the only choice. And here in Metro Manila, what we actually find is that if you take on average about 150 kilometers each week, you can actually save using uberX, which is one of the products on Uber, by about 40%. If you start counting the cost of owning a car, besides fuel, you still have to pay for maintenance, you pay for insurance, the amortization for the car, and even parking. Parking is really getting expensive. In Makati and Fort alone, the cost is about 5,000 pesos per month. So that's not even counting the time you spend or the time you lose trying to find parking and getting out of the parking lot. So just on pure cold hard cash, you can actually save money as well. So it just makes sense. And this is the potential and the exciting part of how technology is really changing how we live our day-to-day. Beyond what you see on a screen, this is how things are changing when you hit the street, when you get on the road, when you get to, in other words, in real life, nga diba, as they say. So what's the future going to look like with technology? Well, it doesn't stop there. Change is happening now, but change can continue to happen. And one of the things we think about is carpooling. And with carpooling, what we think about is not just about replacing car ownership, but we're thinking about how do you get more people into one car so that they share a ride. More people in each car means fewer cars. Fewer cars means fewer trips, and fewer trips means fewer cars on the road. And we are now starting to decongest our roads. One of the things that we have is something called Uber Pool, which is a product that's available in other parts of the world, and we're very excited to get into the Philippines pretty soon. In this kind of use of technology, what we do is using data collection and sort of, your smartphone, the internet, everything that's available out there. We're able to match people's routes, kung saan sila pupunta. For example, we're all here in Xavier right now. If I wanted to go to, let's say, SM Mega Mall, and somebody else, so I get an Uber, go to Mega Mall. On the way there, 2 blocks down from here, somewhere in Ortigas, for example, somebody wants to go to Robinson's Galleria. That same car, even though I'm in it already, can then accept another request. And we will make a small, short detour to pick up that second passenger, maybe a complete stranger. But that's okay, because we can now share the same car heading towards the same destination. And this is fantastic, because not only does it save me money, because there's going to be a discount, the driver is now able to spend his time more efficiently and earn more for every minute that he's on the road. And the most important part of it is that we can now actually start getting cars off the road. Okay, getting cars off the road. And this is something, I'm personally very excited about, because not only is technology changing the way we communicate, changing the way we talk to people, it's changing how we live our day-to-day. So solving traffic and traffic congestion is not easy. I think it's one of those problems that not everybody feels like can be done. No, I think everybody wants to solve it, but it's not easy. So I want to kind of just summarize what I think about change and how you kind of can rethink change when it comes to using technology here in the Philippines. The first thing is, you got to look at things differently. Okay, something like traffic is a problem that is never easy to solve. And if you think about traffic, you don't just think about, how do you expand Metro Manila? How do you create more roads? But you can also think about, what does it mean to use transportation? Is it about owning a car? Or really, is it about you being able to get from your origin to your destination? For you to be able to go from point A to point B. And sometimes it's that simple change in mindset and how you look at things that will let you find new ways to solve the problem. Secondly, it's about trying. It's about doing. It's really great to hear about ideas. It's really great to talk about how technology can change things. And more, especially the younger folks, people who are growing up still in high school, you guys are learning a lot of things. And that's great. And it's great to think about the things you can potentially do. But sometimes thinking is very different from doing. So it's always about trying and then iterating on that. Okay? I think it's worth noting that we have the technology. It's a matter of actually using that and trying to make something of it. And you will make mistakes. Even today, in what I do, I constantly make mistakes. But we iterate. We learn from them quickly, and we change. And this is what technology is about. You try something that's never been done. You make a small mistake here, but you learn quickly, and you iterate. And the last thing here is adoption. Technology is only as good as the way it's being used. And if more people use technology, and in this case, use ride sharing, share a car, share your car with somebody else, and carpool, then we're now actually creating change, real, meaningful change. And with that, I encourage you guys to think about what technology means to you and what you can use to it, because there's really a huge potential out there, and I'm excited for each and every one of you to do something about it. Thank you.